The girl was breathing so hard it seemed she was going to vomit her heart out of her throat. And then she sunk to the floor midway through the hall. Her entire body was drenched in sweat. Her legs stiffened, cramped. This was only natural. After all, she had been running around the inside of the school for a full hour. The classroom clock seemed about ready to strike 12 o'clock. However, outside the window it was twilight. It wasn't 12 o'clock in the day nor 12 o'clock at night. And mysteriously, aside from the girl, no one else appears to be in this school. The girl had been running for more than an hour in this twilight without a soul to be seen on campus for ages. Even now, her heart was exploding. She no longer had a place to run to, nor the energy to stand. No, I can't run anymore. As the girl crawled on the floor with a frightened expression, she slowly looked behind her. Something else could be heard aside from her harsh breathing, and that was footsteps. The sound of heels, rough footsteps treading across the floor, were closing in fast. No. Even though the girl had collapsed on all fours, she tried to get away from the sound of those footsteps. But she had already lost both her legs to cramping, and it was futile to even try standing up. Relentlessly, those footsteps drew closer. Mercilessly, they drew closer. Why? Why curse me? Please, leave me alone! Thump, thump. Thump, 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 thump. That silhouette with a jet black cloak drew nearer at a fast pace. Finally, he reaches her. And so he spreads his cloak wide and covers the girl in that shadow. No! The horrific flash of a merciless scythe cast its reflection in the eyes of the girl, screaming in the throes of death. Okay, that's enough for today. Time to go. The teacher looked up to the clock as the bell signifying the end of class rang. Leaving class required following a daily routine that started with standing to attention. While everyone else in class clamored to stand up, I lagged behind and sluggishly rose from my seat. I noticed the chalkboard was covered in writing. My notes reflected none of it. After all, I had spent the whole time dozing off with my head down. And my drowsiness wasn't limited to just this subject. Language, math, science, social studies, etc., etc. My class notes were completely blank. It's not unusual. I spend almost all my time at school sleeping through classes, or I just daydream to myself pondering life's questions. My name is Aya Soma. Names and stuff don't really matter. After I'm dead, I'm just a corpse. Ascribing names to such things is meaningless. So after we've lived our lives, names are somewhat meaningless in the first place. Evidence for such, my name, whether Aya or Ayako, has no real influence on me. That daydreaming boy sitting on the opposite side of the classroom, even though he doesn't even know my name, he has no particular influence over me and doesn't complicate my life. In the same way, my name, my existence, doesn't have any particular influence on his life either. If we follow this logic, everyone in this class, equally in whoever's lives, doesn't particularly influence anyone. Who lives or doesn't live, whatever name they have or don't have, none of it has any real meaning. Human beings, one and all, have no real value in living, and so in school we're endlessly taught things of no real value either. We're coerced into doing things like writing our thoughts on subjects we don't understand, or we're made to solve calculations in a world overflowing with calculators. Just how do litmus tests and asbestos wire mesh influence our lives, I wonder? What a cynical and foolish set of ideas, you must think. No, rather, isn't it suitable? For us who have no real meaning or value, who are made to learn things of no real meaning or value, we're going through lives of no real meaning or value. Everything, the world, myself, all of it was meaningless and worthless to me. So, why am I still alive? I can't understand why I can't stop living either. Why was I born into this world, I wonder? Teachers, parents, they say life has meaning and that it becomes obvious what it is as you continue to live. But if I actually look into what they mean, they'll mumble something ambiguous and give me the slip. There just isn't one. There just isn't a reason for living. Nevertheless, I'm still alive. Just out of habit, I continue to live somehow. I just couldn't stand it anymore. If I'm to continue living in this world, I want someone to tell me that reason. Living like this, trying to find a reason, I want to be given a life that has value. But something like that doesn't exist. I'm just forced to sluggishly commute to school every day, and whether I learn or not, I'm forced into study that has no real use. I stopped being able to bear those aimless days long ago. Do you want to die? If someone asked me that, I wouldn't answer yes. If there was a purpose in death, then of course I'd want to die as soon as possible. But jumping and falling or hanging by the neck, those would undoubtedly be really painful. The idea of having to cause harm to oneself with one's own hands, that's also meaningless. One day, all of a sudden, what if the morning didn't come? If morning didn't come, I wouldn't wake up. I'd stay asleep forever. And like that, just as snow melts, just as if I had never existed in the first place, I'd want to disappear entirely. That's different from wanting to kill myself. I want to go to the meaningless void that so suits my meaningless self. One could say perhaps I want to erase myself. Maybe. If I could say I had one dream, that was it. I, Aya Soma, wanted to disappear, as if asleep, like melting snow. Unfortunately, there wasn't any way to die in this world like that. If I wanted that, then the only thing I could do was rely on something not of this world. At that time, coincidentally, my classmates' chatter entered my ears. A 13th step, you say? Is there really such a thing? Yeah, it's one of the most famous of the 8 school mysteries. I've also heard the story of the 13th step. Even though the school shouldn't have a flight of stairs with a 13th step, there's now this strange phenomenon that has just developed about one. And they say that horrors await those who stumble upon it, or some such. What happens when you step on the 13th step? They say a Shinigami, a grim reaper, comes to take your life. I've heard it'll follow you wherever you go, no matter how far. Huh? What is that? No way! If you tread on the 13th step, a Shinigami will come for your life, huh? I go up and down stairs every day at school, but I've never experienced such a thing, and my life has yet to be taken from me because of it. Shinigami, huh? Harvesting the lives of mortals, a being without mercy. Snatching souls and ferrying them down to the underworld, a deathly escort. It's strange. Even though I should find the thought of a Shinigami unpleasant, these days, I've strangely embraced a longing for it. I wonder how a Shinigami would kindly take my life away. I wonder if it would just take my life away like flipping off a light switch. If that were true, then the Shinigami was truly a being of mercy. My life, this world too, and all of these days I'm made to repeat endlessly, they're all meaningless to me. Just being is the same as being burned and flayed in hell to me. Then, my reason for living, waiting for the day the Shinigami comes to take me away from this world. Perhaps that is the only reason I have. From that day forth, each time Aya Soma, went up and down the stairs at school, I started counting the steps in my mind. 1, 2, 3 steps. My classroom is on the 2nd floor, so every day I had to go up and down those stairs. However, they end at the 12th step, and beyond the 12th step I'd arrive on the 2nd floor. Like the most natural thing in the world, no matter how many times I try going up and down the stairs, I'd get off at the 12th step and arrive on the 2nd floor. I thought that maybe someday, suddenly a 13th step would appear, and a Shinigami would come for me. 6, 7, 8 steps. I want to be given a peaceful death, like melting away in a dream. So let's see what happens today. I sought after the impossible, a 13th step. 10, 11, 12. 13 steps. What? My right foot stood firmly on the 13th step. Did I miscount? Even though I had arrived on the 13th step I was looking for, I immediately jumped to the conclusion I had miscounted. Of course, I mean there should only be 12 steps on the stairs. I hurriedly ran down the stairs to the floor below. Once again, I counted each step with my fingers out loud. 10, 11, 12, 12. Right, 12 steps. Obviously. This time while climbing up once again, I counted the steps aloud. 11, 12. At 12 it stops. My left foot had certainly sounded on the 12th step, and I arrived on the 2nd floor. When I went up the stairs, I consciously always went up with the right foot, and so, coincidentally, my left foot would reach the 12th step. But just now when I counted out the 13th step, I had reached it with my right foot. It wasn't just a miscount. By chance, maybe I had started climbing the stairs with my left foot. It must have just been a combination of chance and miscounting. But that's impossible. I'm not sure. But after I recounted just now, it was 12. That was the cold, hard truth. Yet more than anything, if I really stood on the 13th step, the Shinigami that had to show itself didn't appear. Since the Shinigami can't show itself, then I must have simply mistook what I stood on to be the 13th step. And even if I had stood on a mysterious 13th step, it didn't mean anything because the Shinigami didn't come for me. 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. No matter how many times I count it, I end up at 12. That's how it is. I let loose a sigh of relief and disappointment. I thought I didn't need to go up and down the stairs to count again. How foolish. As I thought, the tale of the 13th step has no real meaning. Just as it had no impact on my meaningless existence. It's meaningless. Myself, the world, everything and anything, it's all useless, meaningless. I want to disappear. Won't someone help erase me? I want to be erased from this meaningless, valueless world. I want my life without meaning to disappear, gently, like a snowflake on the water's surface. At Aya's school, whether she's daydreaming or dozing off, she just spends her days with her eyes closed lying down on her desk. So her days are always spent in a dreamy blur. Seemingly half asleep, but seemingly half awake, she exists within that kind of dream. Because of that, there's no way she'd have anything like an appetite. At lunchtime, the chopsticks go almost unused and she always has leftovers. So she listlessly met with the end of the school day, and listlessly went home. Her parents both worked, so they'd come home late. She used to watch television but found no meaning or value in the idiotic content of the programs. Now she just passes the time lying around in the house. As usual, she lay still, gazing up at the ceiling. She had already memorized the spots on the ceiling. Her wild imagination could conjure up a variety of stories about these spots, but she was already exhausted and tired of the senselessness. That's why she lethargically emptied her mind like this, as if she were a corpse. Her consciousness is starting to fade. She wondered why she couldn't die like this. When her parents returned, she was called to the dinner table. Of course, she had no appetite. There was no conversation, and she just played with her chopsticks a little and then left the dinner table. Then she returned to her room and became a corpse again, and continued as such until her parents called her for her evening bath, after which she returned to being a corpse once again. Turning out the lights, even after slipping into her futon late at night, she would remain a corpse. Sleep is for those who are alive. Corpses simply lie still. They do not sleep. There's no way a girl who dozes off at school and at home all the time can sleep soundly at night. That explains why she can't sleep. At school and at home, mixed with her sloth and dozing, she'd lie still and become a rotting corpse. One would think because she was unconscious she would have been comfortable. However, she is still living. So each time she would become a corpse, she would repeatedly ask herself the meaning and value of her life. As she suffocates in this manner, in her dull consciousness she continues to be endlessly tormented by a throbbing headache. Thus, when her consciousness is suddenly cut and she can cross into sleep, without a doubt that is her only release from the pain. These were the repeating days of the corpse-like Ayasoma. Where am I? Somewhere purple and orange mingled, dyed the colors of twilight. As her consciousness returned, her surroundings became visible. This place is probably one of the school hallways. It's not a hallway I often use, though. Perhaps it was a hallway somewhere on the ground floor of the school? The patter of someone's running footsteps is drawing near. It was a lone girl sweating profusely and breathing heavily. From her looks, I thought she could be an upperclassman. At last, grinding to a halt, she leans against the wall and slides down to the floor. As if her heart and lungs were about to burst, her legs stopped at once. It seemed she could not muster up the energy to stand again. Stomp, stomp. Stomp, stomp. With her like that, the sound of ruthless footsteps approached. Considering the heavy, brisk pace, they were obviously after her. Swaying in the corridor beyond, the owner of those footsteps' figure appeared. It was a man in a black coat, and on his shoulder he bore a great, massive scythe. Anyone could clearly see that he was a Shinigami. That must be apparent to the girl as well, as his ominous shadow drew closer. However, she didn't have the energy to look over her shoulder or even stand. The Shinigami was still stomping towards her. Having already lost the energy to flee, she accepted defeat and grinned. Huh? You're taking a break? Aren't you going to run? You'll be killed, so get up! It's impossible. I can't run anymore, she said as if begging with her rough breathing. If you don't stand up, I'm gonna catch up with you. Stop crying and stand. Get up! I can't run anymore. Every day is like this. I hate it. Let me go, please, let me go. You must be stupid or something. I'm a Shinigami. Shinigami don't let go of their prey. Let me live, please. Let me live. I won't do anything bad anymore. I'm always bullied by everyone in class. I don't have a place anywhere. And to meet a fate like this, I don't deserve this. Not like this. Why do I have to suffer like this? If you're a Shinigami, hunt the souls of the worst people that bully me. You know what? I like you. Failures like you are my favorite food. You're horrible. I don't deserve this. I don't. Please, 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 please let me go. At last, the Shinigami arrived at the girl's side, and the scythe being held up was slowly pointed towards the girl. If you still have the strength to speak, then you should still be able to run away. I just can't stand it when my prey isn't running desperately here and there. The Shinigami's face warped into a wicked smile as he roared with laughter. However, the girl was already preparing to meet her end. She couldn't stand that terror of taking to fleeing again. If you're going to kill me, then please do it. I mean, there's nothing good about being alive either. The pain will just be for a moment. Just for a moment. Like a prayer, the girl recited this over and over. You've already given up? What a fool. You really think death is a good thing? You fool! The ruthless blade of the scythe drives into the girl. A sound like that of a strangled chicken. A shrill shriek escapes her and is suddenly silenced. At that moment, her whole body exploded into a deep blue flame. That blue flame was hotter and colder than any flame of the human world. Her whole body burned and froze in torment, while her cells were devoured one by one. The girl didn't stir anymore. However, all of her flesh was cooked until it was erased, and her consciousness, which remained, could not escape that terrible pain. So you thought you'd end up sleeping peacefully and dying a clean death? Wrong! It's too late, and now you're my prey for eternity. Now let me hear your agony in my hell for my enjoyment for the rest of eternity. The soul of the completely burned girl fell into the depths of an abyss. There was no unconsciousness or loss of self. Every nerve of her body stung with the pain of burning and freezing. Her heart was ready to burst from the plummeting endless horror. Abruptly, something emerged out of the jet black abyss. It was hideous to even look at, an eerie, flesh-colored, organic alien world. A world that looked like the inside of a stomach. In fact, she had fallen into the belly of a giant monster. The girl crashed into the folds of that hideous, wriggling flesh. There, the acid used to burn and inflame her body gushed from the whole surface, and fangs packed like needles in a pincushion emerged. The girl's whole body was burned and pierced while she screamed and writhed. In a flash, her skin melted and became just like a bloody human anatomy dummy. The fleshy ground continued as if torturing her by rolling the girl over and over in a sea of acid and needles. Without a doubt, the monstrous demon's stomach was trying to digest her. The girl, screaming in pain, prayed for her life to quickly end. However, even though the fangs and acid had stripped her skin off, death did not come to her. No way you can die. You see, you're already dead. You can't die twice, see? You don't die twice. You'll spend eternity being tortured in my stomach, and I will digest your soul. The Shinigami glared at her, ridiculing the girl who could not suppress her cries of anguish and suffering. The girl probably couldn't understand, as all she could feel was the grip of agonizing pain. If she could look down at the scene from above, she would see the suffering of countless victims. Their hides had clearly dissolved from their undying bodies that could no longer be distinguished as men or women, victims writhing in agony. The ones that had spent too long in this hell didn't even appear human. Their arms and heads were split apart, and finally they'd reached a point where they'd become lumps of flesh that one would hardly have thought were once human beings in the first place. But even then, they didn't die. Without mouths, they could not release their screams of agony. An eternity without dying, they continue eternally being tortured in the stomach of this demon. This is my afterlife. Death isn't paradise or anything of the sort. It's the gateway to an eternity of pain. After letting me show you this, I bet you won't say anything about wanting to die in your sleep like melting snow, will ya? While saying that, the Shinigami looks. He looks at me. But wasn't this the world of my dreams? It was an unease, almost as if an actor that should have been inside a TV set started to glare in my direction. This uneasiness, somehow within my own dream, my mind was following someone who had nothing to do with me. But the Shinigami was speaking to me and my desire to die as if falling asleep, softly as snow melts. The Shinigami didn't let me escape from his grinning gaze. Even though it was a dream, I felt a paralyzing fear all over my body. When I realized my alarm clock had been ringing for quite some time, I was relieved from the bottom of my heart. When I woke up, my body was drenched in sweat. It's not as though I've never had the experience of waking up from a nightmare before, but something about this one really distinguished itself from past experiences. Yes, quite the something. Was that really a dream? I'd never been so happy to just be uneventfully lying wide awake in my futon. That Shinigami, his laughter, the voices of those poor, undying, writhing victims in that world not unlike a hideous monster's stomach. I could remember it all. I could only relax for a while until I could hear my mother's voice calling for me to wake up. What on earth was that dream? By any chance, was it the curse of the 13th step? No, surely not a curse. I thought I had probably stepped onto the 13th step, and perhaps that frightened me deeper than I thought. That must have been why I had that dream. From the entryway, I go up to the front of the stairs as I always do. Other students paid no attention, and so they went up the stairs as always. I'll count on my fingers one more time. 12th step. Without a doubt, it was the 12th step. Right. I had probably made a mistake while counting. Even so, I was scared, convinced that I had actually stepped on the 13th step, and that had caused me to have that dream. Jeez, I'm such an idiot. Even while muttering this to myself, I was still scared. Death would be a peaceful end for me. I had believed that. Having been confronted with an afterlife that was not such a sweet thing after all, being forcefully disillusioned like that left an impact on me. Anyway, it was just a dream. It's pointless to worry about it. Foolish, even. Thinking that, I stopped counting whilst climbing up the stairs. My favorite food. You're a real failure, aren't you, girl? On this day, for Ayasoma, as usual, nothing changed for the better. She spent time dozing off and daydreaming through almost all of the lesson. During recess, she put her head down on the desk and slept. Since she had no appetite, she'd always leave food on her plate and give back leftovers. That was all there was to it. As usual, it was a monotonous and meaningless day. At least, until she finished school. So when you go home, make sure to rinse your mouth and wash your hands. Yes! Alright, classroom assistant, please dismiss the class. Stand! Bow! After saying goodbye and being dismissed, she would be freed from school. Apart from that, there was a sense of relief in that she didn't have to return home. Goodbye! Huh? Suddenly, abruptly. What happened? I don't understand. The whole class had faced the teacher and said goodbye, and in that moment, the world had disappeared. No, saying that might give the wrong idea. It didn't even go dark. Of course, I was still standing in the classroom. That much had not changed. But it was gone. Like the pop of a fluorescent light going out, everyone in the classroom had disappeared, except for me, Ayasoma. What? Without knowing why, I looked around. However, nobody was around. Everyone was gone. On top of that, all the ambient school noise had vanished. It was as if it wasn't just everyone in the classroom, but the entire school. No, it could even mean that the rest of the world had disappeared. Suddenly, it was a world without people. A world of silence. What was the meaning of this? I wondered and took a peek out into the corridor. It was dead silent. It wasn't just the neighboring classrooms either, because no one could be seen or heard inside the building. Running back into the classroom, I looked down at the schoolyard from the window. Nevertheless, it was time to go home. Normally, I should be looking down on a line of people heading towards the gate from the school entrance. But there wasn't one. There wasn't even a line, not even a single soul. Rather, I couldn't even see anything stirring outside. What is this? Even the pigment of the sky was somehow strange, even though it shouldn't even be 4 o'clock yet. The sky was stained a deep orange as if it were already twilight. I remembered seeing this detestably orange-colored school interior before. It was the background from my nightmare. This was the backdrop to my horrific nightmare this morning, where a girl was chased and murdered by a Shinigami. No way. No way! Anyway, based on the sky being like this, it must already be around 6 o'clock. There's no way it's 6 o'clock. I mean, look! I look up at the classroom clock. Of course, the clock didn't show it was the twilight hour. Although, for some reason, it showed it was 11:55. In the morning? Daytime? Even with the sky colored by the sunset like that? I don't understand why. It's twilight at 11:55 in the school building, and I'm alone in the world. I was suddenly and without warning in a school building from an uninhabited world. It can't mean, but there's no way. I want to deny it, but every cell in my body began to shiver, starting with the soles of my feet, and I began to understand. This place is the world I saw within my nightmare. In this world, a nameless girl was pursued by a Shinigami, caught, killed, and then dropped into a terrifying hell. Just then, for the first time in this world, I heard a sound. For a moment I had a sliver of hopeful excitement that someone other than myself was there, but it immediately vanished. Because the stomping sound of heels, heavy footsteps moving quickly. I realized I was already inside the dream. Those footsteps were quickly closing in on this classroom. I stood motionlessly and waited for the owner of those footsteps. I prayed it wasn't that Shinigami. Then, donning that jet-black cloak across his back, a man with a large build slid open the door from the hallway. That was without a doubt that Shinigami. Welcome to my school! When I first heard the Shinigami's laughter, it was without a doubt the same one I had heard from within that nightmare. I didn't let my guard down while watching the spectacle. This might be a dream, but I didn't attempt to pinch my cheek or wake myself up. Regardless, the reality is that standing before my very eyes is that terrifying Shinigami. Therefore, if I can't run away, I'll be killed and be plummeted into that horrific organ-colored hell, stomach to writhe in the agony for eternity. You've got to be kidding me. I didn't do anything to deserve a fate like that. Maybe. It's just like you saw in your dream. I'll chase you, and I'll kill you. If you don't want to die, then try running away with all your might. You know, for me seeing your kind covered in sweat and chasing you everywhere, that's what I find truly fun. On you go. Now run. Run! You already know what's going to happen to you when I catch you. As he said that, the Shinigami directed with his chin for me to get out of the classroom. And if I refused to do that, he would catch me right away in this dead-end classroom, and to hell I would go. I don't know why, I don't know how, but being thrown into that kind of hell is something I want to avoid at all costs. As I looked at the classroom exit and watched that Shinigami's fearless expression, carefully, I leave the classroom. As if telling me I had done well, the Shinigami sneered, and so the thumping of his footsteps began. Now then, the game begins. I wonder just how far and how long you can run. Show me a good time. Somebody! Somebody help! Just as I had learned from a crime prevention lecture, I screamed for help as I ran down the hallway. But all my screams did was echo through the hallways. No one gave a response. You and I are alone in this world. Screaming like that is just a waste of stamina. The Shinigami left the classroom. He has a quick pace, but he doesn't run. Yet, if a child tried to outrun him, it would hardly be difficult for him to catch them. I came barreling down the stairway and ran to the entrance. At any rate, I had to get out of the school. Once I do that, I might be able to escape the world of the Shinigami. The entrance was shut with glass doors. I had never seen it closed with something like that before. It looked like it can be opened, but it won't let me out. Does it need a key? I pondered this as I tried to force the door, but it won't open no matter what I try. It won't budge! While I was doing that, I could hear the Shinigami's footsteps going down the stairwell. It's pointless. My school has its own space severed from the real world. Doors won't open, windows won't open either. You can't even break them. The only way you can survive in this school now is by running away from me. The Shinigami reveals himself across the shoe racks. Running in circles in between the shoe racks, I drove away the paralyzing haze that seized my mind. Who are you? Why? Why me? Who am I? All right, I don't know how long we're going to be seeing each other, but I guess I'll introduce myself. I am the second ranked of the school yokai, Reaper of the 13th Step, Izanami-sama. Izanami. That was the name of the Shinigami. It was just like the name of the deity from Japanese mythology. Until recently, I had no name. I was just the Reaper of the 13th Step, and then somebody somewhere told me the name of Izanami, Lord of the Underworld. I liked it, so from that day forth, I made that my name. Although Izanami was apparently originally a woman's name. Can you believe it? Even while Izanami carried on this conversation, his legs didn't stop. Thump, 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 thump. He continued to walk at this quick pace without letting out a single breath. Almost like the games of demon tag I used to play with my friends, I was running in circles around the shoe racks. Did I do something to you to deserve this? Why are you after me? You stepped on it, fool. My 13th step. You counted it out clearly as you went up, didn't you? I'm not gonna let you forget it. The 13th step is my fishhook, so to speak. When my favorite prey, you deadbeat, step on it, then you're whisked off to my world. You stepped on it, so you're my prey now. Cry and scream all you like, no one is gonna save you! As I had thought, the tale of the 13th step was real. After stepping on the 13th step, you become prey of the Shinigami, and he'll chase you no matter how far you run. No one will save me. All I can do is run. Furthermore, I can't even run away from school. If he catches me, I'm bound for hell like a game of demon tag. I once prayed for death. If Izanami catches me, he can grant my wish. But the kind of death I want isn't a peaceful sleep. I don't want to fall into that disgusting world and turn into a pile of flesh, tormented eternally. The death I desire is completely different than the death you want to give me. Suddenly, I saw the clock above Izanami's shoulders. The long hand and short hand needles of the clock aligned, and the time was 12 o'clock. Then the bell sounded. It sounded just like the usual school bell, but the bell called as if it were oozing from the middle of the school halls. In that moment, the world was enveloped in a white light, and in its radiance I couldn't open my eyes. What? What's happening? I felt dizzy, queasy, and I couldn't remain standing. It was vertigo, like going on the merry-go-round or coffee cup rides at an amusement park. Oh no, I can't think straight. While I began to hear the sound of wind in the distance, seemingly amongst the clamor of the middle of town, I had been crouched and holding my head for the longest time. The sound of cars in the distance, the hum of a ventilation fan from someone's house, the sound of bicycle bells and the laughter of children playing. Fearfully, carefully, I opened my eyes and... I'm home. Somehow I was crouching outside my family's apartment. Fearfully, carefully, I look over my surroundings. That terrifying Shinigami isn't showing himself. Just, what does this mean? Suddenly I'm here as if I had been daydreaming while squatting like that. That can't be. Because I had been running around the school entrance for ages. I'm still tired and my breathing is still erratic. My body is even drenched in sweat. The joints in my legs ache, so I was absolutely sure I had been running away just moments ago. I have no idea what's going on. Could that have been a dream? That's not possible. Yet, I'm sure of one thing. I had escaped from that Shinigami. That night, I saw another dream. This time, I was clearly aware that I was inside a dream. In that dream, Izanami once again came to speak to me. As if praising me, he clapped his hands together. You got away today, but the fun ain't over yet. Let's have lots of fun tomorrow. After all, there's nothing I love more in this world than chasing and catching you hopeless losers when you're dripping in sweat. The curtains rise on our fun and games. Games? Are you calling these games? That's right. In these games, your life is at stake. Because these are games, there are also rules. Rules? The moment I thought of it, Izanami grinned as if he heard my thoughts, even though I said nothing at all. Basically, I've made a few rules so that our game is enjoyable. First off, I won't run. No matter how fast I walk, I'll never run. After all, if I really ran, I could catch you all right away. What I really love, you see, is seeing the anguish on your faces as you punks run for your lives. So to ensure that even your shorter childlike legs can run from me, I'll never run after you. That was certainly true. Izanami always walked briskly, but he never ran. Because he had adult legs, even though he's just walking quickly, you can't let your guard down. But if he ran, there was no way to avoid being caught in the end. He was just that fast. Just one more thing I'll promise you. The only time I'll snatch your life away is when I catch you. As long as you keep running from me, I'll let you live. Curses, accidents, illness. Basically, I'm not going to kill you in some unknown way like that. In other words, whether you live or die depends on those little legs of yours. As long as I continue to run away, I won't be killed. Exactly. Well, it's quite the sight, you see. When they give up the ghost, that is. Listen here. I ain't a dream. I'm real. Now get a good look at me. Don't you dare look away. If you want to live, run for your life and let me watch you struggle helplessly. In the end, my prey usually starts acting strange. They start saying it's a dream and then they go and stop running. That ain't fun. Get it through your head that I'm real and let me have my fun. I understand. This is inside a dream, but not a dream. Izanami has appeared in my dream and is talking to me. I'll say one thing. If you stop going to school to get away from me, I'll whisk you away to hell and the game ends immediately. I won't forgive cowards that run away from my game. You're gonna go to school every day and be my entertainment with those little legs of yours. So you better be sure not to get a cold, okay? It was decided that a deadly game of tag would unfold to the Shinigami every day from then on. On the first day, since it was the first time, I was confused. On the second day, I had little preparation and kept my cool only slightly. The game with Izanami begins at the same time class ends. Well, it's time to play with me, Aya-chan! There, behind the closed doors of the school, there was no way to get out. At any rate, until he let me go from that alternate reality, I had no other choice but to run away from the Shinigami. Indeed, as a rule, Izanami never ran. He always walked briskly, but never ran. So if I stayed calm and run, I can make quite some distance between us. I'd likely win if I kept away until the chime rang. Of course, I'm referring to the chime that rings at 12. The game started at 11:55 yesterday, but it started at 11:50 today. In other words, if I can run from Izanami for 10 minutes, I'll be okay. Since there's nowhere to run to, there's no goal to reach. Basically, the only thing I can do is run around the school in circles over and over. I run through the corridor on the first floor up to the second floor and take a breath. After reassuring myself that Izanami is at the bottom of the staircase, I run through the second floor corridor. Then I go down the stairs at the other side of the hall, and while I wait again for Izanami to draw near, I take a breath. Then I go to the first floor corridor again and climb the staircase. As long as I keep repeating this endlessly until the chime rings, I should be okay. Once I understood how it was a simple game of demon tag, I was able to pull myself together. Of course, hell awaited me if I got caught, but it was easy to not get caught. Just going round and round these stairs and running through the same hallways over and over was good enough. On top of that, there wasn't a need to run with everything I had either. I could run lightly, like jogging, and then rest until he got too close, and then go back to running again. With that in mind, I can keep my cool, and I only have to keep running like this for 10 minutes. Right. And I sought to convince myself by thinking that in my mind over and over again, that this wasn't that hard at all. But could I convince myself? Run a little, rest a little, run a little, rest a little. I mean, all I had to do was keep doing that over and over. Just what's difficult about that? But I knew the truth. However many breaks I take to catch my breath, running for 10 minutes is really exhausting. I might fall down or sprain my foot, and if that happens, that'll be the end of the line for me. The more I ran down the stairs, the more I thought. I felt conflicting feelings between my desire to run fast and the desire to run with care. No matter how much I reassure myself that this is easy, with each passing minute I lose my cool and my heart beats faster. Perhaps I should run really, really far away? No, that's not right. If I ran like that, what if I injured myself? Then it'd be the end for me. Maybe running calmly and pacing myself would be better? Not only that, I could not think why, out of everyone in this huge school, the Shinigami would be after me. I felt something like pain and even regret that I had to meet such a horrible fate. My head is astir with all sorts of emotions. Whenever I rest just a little, Izanami quickly gets closer. Halfway around, I glanced at the clock in the classroom. Just one more minute. I'll be okay. I can escape without any problems. I still had strength in me. My mind was in order. I survived. As soon as I thought so, I had forgotten. A sense of fear and discomfort was reborn. I remembered that the game began at 11:55 yesterday, and today it began at 11:50. It's only 5 minutes. 5 more minutes. That couldn't mean that the time until the bell rang would increase every day, could it? I just had to run around for 10 minutes, but I'm this tired already. If the time extends little by little each day, eventually it'll reach 1 or 2 hours longer. That was a terrible thought. Then, the clock strikes 12. The sound of chimes ringing in the schoolhouse. I guess that means you win today too. Looks forward to tomorrow, okay? You should do some deep massaging. There's a limit, and being unable to run because of pain in your legs is such a killjoy. And with Izanami's laughter, everything was swallowed in a bright light, and then began to disappear. Then I returned to my senses. I was in front of my apartment, the same as yesterday. This is a dream. I couldn't help but believe that. However, just as Izanami said in the dream, this is reality. Tomorrow, and probably the day after that, each time class ends, in that separate dimension, with my life at stake, that's when my game of demon tag against that Shinigami begins. I lay down and look up at the ceiling. Unable to see the meaning of living, I wanted to die so many times. However, the death that the Shinigami offered me was far from the gracious death I wanted. I was given a horrible, hideous fate. I don't want that, so I escaped, and I continue to live. I continue to live? Living even though I can't see any point in it? Although it only lasted a few minutes, that life or death struggle with the Shinigami made me feel, for a moment, alive. But that moment had no meaning. Even if I survive the Shinigami's game, I can't enjoy my victory and I get nothing from it. It was just that I didn't want to fall into that hell, and I just had to escape. It was a punishment game, but a punishment game without any reward. In other words, a game without any meaning. If he hadn't shown that hell to me previously, I'd have thrown away my life on my own volition on the very first day. There is no value in living. Neither is there value in death. In the end, even this game with the Shinigami is meaningless, worthless. However, just to deny myself that hell, I run around the school against my will. I'll have to do that forever and ever, eternally. The moment I stepped on the 13th step, I was already in hell, probably. That disgusting hell stomach and the hell of being forced to run around the school. I could only choose between the two of them. I wonder if I'll always have to keep playing that game from hell forever. Since it's a game, shouldn't it have an end or a goal or something? My life definitely has no meaning. Still, I want to have the right to choose how I die. For now, I live, so that someday I can die in my sleep and melt away. I live to die. Even that, too, seemed meaningless. From then on, as long as I had school, those after-school games continued every day. Every day, little by little, the time I needed to keep running away increased. Once in a while, there were days when the time would decrease on a whim, but each time it seemed like a calculation error. Every day, that time quota steadily continued to grow. Regardless, I just had to keep running circles around the first and second floor hallways. I would keep repeating that only until the chime sounds. Although I cried and screamed, running was all I could do to keep myself alive. That's why I steeled my emotions. Silently, I just ran, rested, and ran again. After 1 week had passed, I had to run around almost as long as my PE period. Unfortunately, my body was just about at its limit. My whole body covered in sweat, my lungs and heart heaving uncontrollably. In the end, I could only run in a staggered stance while holding my side. My time would probably keep growing and growing. Then it'll finally be an hour. No doubt I'll be made to run even longer than that. It's impossible. Does he really expect me to keep running like that? If time kept getting longer still, and growing like this, then in the end, without a doubt, I'll be killed. That was before I heard that rumor. The rumor that in some class there was a girl with a sixth sense. They said that girl was familiar with spirits and yokai, and that she was well versed on the school's 8 mysteries. Naturally, it seemed they were probably exaggerating. Even when I heard it, I couldn't help but think it was foolish. However, now things were different. I now knew all too well the meaning of the saying, "A drowning man will clutch at a straw." The girl's name is Michiru Sakurada. After asking her in class, they said she's often here during lunch break. Behind the school, hidden in the shade of the bushes, at the small Shinto shrine. Crouched in front of it, that girl with an eye patch muttered something to herself as she gently stroked the shrine. Just as the rumors had said, it was without a doubt Michiru Sakurada. If I tell her that I stepped on the 13th step and that every day a Shinigami chases me after school, would she believe me, I wonder? Nevertheless, could she know a way to save me? Could she tell me? With that prayer in mind, I started to talk to her. Reaper of the 13th Step? I know him. That's the second-ranked school yokai Reaper of the 13th Step, Izanami. Yeah, him. If I said that Shinigami called Izanami was targeting me, would you believe me? It seemed like Michiru Sakurada was staring at me intently, with her spirit eye hidden on the other side of her eye patch. I swallowed my saliva with a gulp, and I waited for her to say something. However, she remained silent. As if somehow she didn't trust me, she finally looked the other way. Wait, Sakurada-san! Are you listening to me? Certainly. Right now I'm talking to Sakanoshin-sama. It was almost as if she were conversing with the spirit of the shrine. I would normally think she was pulling my leg, but right now I didn't have a choice. I just had to wait for her to finish her conversation with the spirit of the shrine. You're in trouble. Sakanoshin-sama tells me that Izanami seems to be an extremely powerful school yokai. That Shinigami, Izanami, he chases me around every day after school. You stepped on the 13th step then? Yeah. The 13th step is the seal of Izanami's curse. He causes his selected prey to step on it, chases them around relentlessly, and drags them to hell. That's right. I've already, for days and days on end, every day after class ends, he chases me and runs me around. Please! I don't want to die! Please tell me how to save myself. She once again turns towards the shrine and talks with the spirit. Then she looked me straight in the face and replied, Izanami's curse lasts for 49 days. 49 days? That means 7 weeks! The thought horrified me. My mind went blank. To escape from that Shinigami, I would have to run every single day for almost 2 months. And that wasn't a regular 2 months. Every day of those 2 months, my running time would increase little by little. Even now, I had to run for about as long as the amount of time I had for PE. At this rate, if my time keeps getting longer and longer, in the end, it won't just be 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. It might be even longer than that. That long? That's the only way to escape from Izanami's curse. I'm so sorry for you. Exorcism or talismans? Don't you have something that can, lessen the curse? Something to help me defeat Izanami? Izanami is the second strongest ranked school yokai. The only yokai strong enough to defeat him is the first ranked. Although he used to be the headmaster, now he's old and has mostly withdrawn from hunting. So I would say no yokai that can defeat Izanami exists. I was clueless as to what she was talking about. However, I realized what she wanted to say. That was all I could do. My only escape is to keep running for 49 days. There was no way to cheat or wiggle my way out of it. I'm gonna be killed. I don't want to fall into that kind of hell. My condolences. I'm so sorry. However, I cannot do anything. Save me! You're my only hope! No one else can help me! If there was a way to save you, then Sakanoshin-sama or I would tell you. However, there isn't one. It hurts me to say it. For a time, a rage with nowhere to go welled up in my chest, and all I could do was clench my fist tightly and hang my head. Sakanoshin-sama says, there is a person who has escaped Izanami's curse in the past. There was a survivor? That idea felt like a single ray of light in my darkness of despair. He says that person seems to have graduated a long time ago, so he doesn't know their name or address. However, he says that there was definitely a person who escaped. I wonder who that person is. Perhaps they were some kind of extremely healthy athlete to be able to perform such a feat like running for so long. If that's the case, it's just skill. For a delicate little girl like myself, I can't even do a handstand. But it wasn't just that. No, rather, perhaps that person was more likely to be the weak victim type. Izanami had said it, that losers are his favorite food. I can't think he would make a healthy athlete his prey. That Izanami. He probably always makes downtrodden, apathetic schoolgirls like me into his prey. However, I hardly think I have the energy to run over a few hours. Were there any secrets or tricks for survival? I wanted to hear them. But that person had already graduated, and I knew not the name or address. I'd never hear such tips. Sakurada Michiru whispered to me as I despaired. It's not just you. There is a boy who is also caught in Izanami's curse. A boy? Yeah. Sakanoshin was talking about it recently. He said there's a boy who's suffering Izanami's curse. Who is he? Is he still around? Yes. I know his name in class. I flew to the class where he was taught. This room was for upperclassmen. The other victim, Osato-san, was in there. The classmates pointed at his plump figure, asleep with his head on the desk. Not just dozing, but sleeping in earnest. I have no idea how long he's been caught in Izanami's curse, but if it's been longer than I have, then he's been forced to run around that much longer every single day. I was convinced he was asleep from exhaustion. He woke up crossly, but leaned forward when I said Izanami's name. Tomorrow I start from 10:30. I can't do this anymore. It seemed he had been cursed earlier than I had. The amount of time he had to run from Izanami had already reached over 1 hour. I'm already at my limit, day after day, always running in the corridors. Yesterday, he was only a hair's breadth away from catching me when the chime sounded. Next time, I'm done for. He looked down and scratched his head roughly. He was told that if he escaped for 49 days, he'd be saved, but that only added to his hopelessness. This isn't funny. There's no way that I can keep running away for 49 days. I'm being haunted by a Shinigami. I'm already as good as dead. Eventually, I'll fall into that hell. By doing this, I'm only adding to my suffering. I should just give up now. I don't know how many days are left, but let's do our best. Are you being serious? You can't really be serious. It just keeps going, day after day. And every day the time gets longer. I give up. I'm at my limit. I just can't take it anymore. Besides, I'm bad at studying and I don't have any redeeming features. Even if I survive, I'm still just worthless trash. Trash will be weeded out like the trash it is, all because the gods will it. It was a mistake for trash like me to even be born. It's just too much for me to handle. Finally, he started crying out loud, not caring who heard. For me, he was a small, faint hope. If he could survive for 49 days, I'm sure I could as well. Still, hang in there. He won't ever run. He may be fast, but he'll never outright run. Of course, running for 1 or 2 hours straight is incredibly difficult, I know. But if you're doing it to save your own life, running for that long is nothing. In this world, there are many people who find themselves powerless in the face of an incurable disease. Unable to save themselves, they have no choice but to let fate decide. Compared to that, no matter how painful the trial, if you're given a chance to overcome it by your own power, that is a blessing in itself. Running for that many hours, day in and day out, it's impossible. It just can't be done. I'd run and run, frantically trying to survive. But what's waiting for me in the end? What's it all worth? You can survive. I'm asking you, what's the point of me surviving? I can't study. I can't exercise. I have no friends. I have no hobbies. Every day I felt like I'll die from boredom. No, I wanted to die. Wanting to die is if falling asleep or melting away like snow. His desire was the same as mine. No, everything about him was the same as me. For him, life was meaningless, worthless. To him, there was no point in surviving this ordeal for 49 days. Do I get something special if I survive? Will I get 1,000,000 yen? Will I get granted 1 wish? If so, then make me a great dodgeball player. Buy me 100 manga volumes. No, I get nothing. Even if I survive, I'll get nothing. I'll just go back to my bland life and want to die from boredom. My life was over from the very beginning. I wish I was never born. I wish I'd never been born. I could only hear sobbing in the end. He had become desperate. Rather than physical strength, it was his willpower that had failed, and his feelings resonated with mine. Was there any worth in surviving and going back to normal life? No. It was a meaningless, worthless world. A gray world. The only reason we keep running around is to keep from falling into that gruesome hell. All that awaits us, should we succeed, is the same bleak life we had before. If we were fighting to attain something, we would be able to find meaning in it. But there's nothing to fight for. We torture ourselves by putting off the inevitable, knowing that eventually we will have to accept failure. What is the point to it all? His words pierced my chest as if gouging it. You and I, the moment we stepped on that 13th stair, we were dragged into his hell. He said so, right? He loves to watch trash like us run around in desperation, to chase us around and around. And after he's had his fun, he will throw us into hell. He's the worst kind of Shinigami. You know, I really don't want to go to that terrifying hell. Fortunately, since today is Wednesday, I'll manage to survive somehow or another, but next time around, I'm doomed. Oh well, at least there were some points to surviving until today. Since I was able to meet someone else who was cursed and vent my frustrations, I feel kind of refreshed. You are going to struggle too, you know, until you can accept it. You'll struggle until you realize that you'll be going to the same hell that I am, but hey, I guess that's better than nothing. He was laughing forcibly, with a philosophical, almost self-mocking smile. Words to describe it didn't come to mind. If this really was a game like Izanami said, then in addition to a penalty for losing, there should be a corresponding reward for winning. But there was just a very harsh punishment. There was no worth in surviving. And he liked those kinds of downtrodden, worthless humans. They were his favorite food. The chime signaling the end of lunch rang. I might not be able to meet him again tomorrow or the day after. I saw on his face what could only be called the mark of death. I, now as tired as he was, started to embrace that hell. No, I never want to fall into that horrible hell. The reason I can still think that way must be because I still have some strength and willpower left in me. There's no guarantee that in 1 or 2 weeks I won't end up being just as hopeless as he is. When I was turning to leave the classroom, I suddenly remembered what had been worrying me. I stopped to ask him one final question. Earlier, you mentioned that since it's Wednesday, somehow you'll manage, right? I'm sure that's what I heard him say. That since today is Wednesday, he would somehow manage to survive. That's definitely what he said. Yeah. I don't know why, but for some reason, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, the amount of time I have to run is shorter. But on the other hand, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays are longer. Yesterday was Tuesday, so it was the worst. Today's Wednesday, so it's not as bad. But then it's going to be Thursday. I'm not going to make it. In my 1 week of running, I had also started to notice that pattern. All in all, the daily quota is growing little by little. But there were some days that were shorter than the one before. But the days of the week he mentioned felt off. According to him, it was yesterday, Tuesday, that felt long. But for me, yesterday felt shorter than the previous day. I originally thought that Izanami decided when a day would be shorter entirely on a whim. But according to this boy, the short days were determined based on what day of the week it was. If that's the case, for some reason my short days were not the same as his. If there's a rule that dictates which days are shorter, then it's odd that those days differ between us. I have to assume it's just on the whim of that Shinigami. Thinking about it is a waste of my precious time. The difference between that boy and I is that I still have the willpower left to fight. The only reason I still have that determination is because I never want to fall into that hell. While I still have that strength, I need to find some way to ensure my survival. Izanami's favorite prey is downtrodden, worthless kids. Even that former survivor must have been no different than I am now. It was a child that survived. So I find it hard to believe that they ran around for hours on end every day. To get by, they surely had some tricks. The days differed between him and I. There must be some sort of secret hidden in that fact. That is what the determination in my heart whispered to me. Come on, Aya-chan! Let me see you gasping for air, drenched in sweat. Let me have my fun today, too. Come on, run! Empty your head and mindlessly run around until the bell rings. He said that Wednesdays were shorter, but just like I thought, that wasn't the case for me. The clock hands were further apart than they were yesterday. Today, I will be racing around the school halls for a full hour. I wasn't looking forward to surviving at all. All I wanted was to be spared a trip to hell. Just thinking about such things was a waste of stamina. It was just like Izanami said, the best course of action is to just empty my mind and run. For someone as non-athletic as me, 1 hour was already my limit. If the events of today had not happened, I would probably be giving into despair right now. But now it's a little different. I have some hope. There must be some secret or clue hidden in the days of the week. If I can find it, I might be able to survive. You're doing well. But you can't last much longer, can you? Does death really scare you that much? Weren't you practically begging to die before? Well, I guess if anyone was shown a glimpse of that hell, there's no way they'd still want to die. Still, why are you trying so hard to survive? Even if you do, you'll just return to wasting your life away in a half and wait days. As if trying to provoke me, Izanami keeps ridiculing me. why I want to live, what meaning or worth there is in life. There are many things that I want to think about, many things I want to ponder. But I wasn't free to think about such things while running around and dripping sweat. I don't have the leisure to listen to this nonsense. I can only run, rest until he catches up, take a deep breath, and start running again. Until the bell chimes, I just repeat this pattern again and again. Repeat it until I'm sweating buckets and worried that my heart might explode. That day, by rushing around those halls in a sort of trance, I was able to make it until the bell sounded. The next day, when I went to visit Osata-senpai, his classmates laughed at me and said they didn't know anyone like that. I understand, more or less. His existence, together with his seat in the classroom, has disappeared. This was one of the 8 mysteries of the school, the fate of those cursed by the Reaper of the 13th step. It felt like my heart was being crushed in despair at the loss of my sole companion. To think that he'd suffer in that stomach-like hell for all eternity. My whole body froze in terror at the notion of it. I went to leave the classroom, my head hanging low. Just then, I bumped shoulders with an upperclassman girl. What's an underclassman like you doing up here? If you're just going to loiter around, you'll only get in the way. She was pretty. If I had been born with hair as beautiful as hers, I'm sure I would have had a much better life. The girl walked straight past me into the classroom, looked at the class schedule posted on the wall, and shrugged her shoulders. Ah, what a horrible schedule. Why do we need to have gym on Saturday afternoons? It just ruins my weekend. It seems that this class has physical education on Saturdays. I absolutely hate gym. If only our schedule for Saturday was a bit more like today or tomorrow. I wish gym would just disappear from this world. Looking over the girl's shoulder, I could see the schedule. Just as she had said, there wasn't PE on either today or tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. It goes without saying, but each class has a different schedule. In this class, PE was on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. These matched the days that he said were shorter. Then what about my class? Could it be that on days with PE the time is shortened? That afternoon, my class had PE. Some boys took their pranks too far and the teachers got angry, and we were all made to run circles around the schoolyard for the entire time. Even though I wanted to preserve as much energy as possible for after school, I complained the whole time. But when the end of the school day arrived, I looked up the clock in Izanami's world and confirmed my suspicions. The time is much shorter. It was true. On days with PE, the time decreases. During PE, after a warm-up, we would always run a lap around the schoolyard. But today, on top of that, we were forced to run around in circles for a long, long time. And those minutes I spent running significantly decreased the time until the bell rang. Aya! Aya! Looks like for some reason the time we had to play today got kinda short. Even though Izanami was playing dumb, I already understood. This was probably the only way to win this game of Izanami's. That day, the more I ran, the shorter my time in Izanami's world became. I survived yesterday, and since the amount of time until the bell is much shorter today, this should be easy for me. I don't have PE tomorrow, but if I'm correct, then I should be able to reduce my time in Izanami's world by going running during breaks between classes. Did you realize something? Looks like you've got a bit of a spark in your eyes today. Is it determination? No. Looks like you've got some hope. I'm hopeful. That might be the case. For the first time, I feel like I might actually survive. If I can gather up some running time during break tomorrow, I can do it. I can win. I might be able to survive this 49-day fight. It's a matter of life and death. I could feel my body running with a new vigor. I can do it. I can survive. He's not scary. I can run away. I can make my escape. Do I have something to look forward to if I escape? I still didn't have an answer to that question. But I found a way to escape that gruesome hell. I'm so happy right now I could dance. Even if I try thinking about the meaning of value in life, there just isn't any. Right now, I'm just plenty happy that I have a possibility of surviving. Come on! Get running! If you got time to think about dumb shit, then pick up the pace and start sweating. I let you get off easy today, but starting tomorrow, I'm gonna start kicking the time length up a notch. It's been a while since I last went outside during recess. It's also the very first time I've ever gone running laps around the schoolyard without being in PE class. I have no idea how time will be shaved off by running, but if I run a lot now, I should be able to take it that much easier after school. After all, nobody's chasing me right now. I can run leisurely at my own pace. Even if I tire, I still have plenty of time to recuperate before school ends. That is the way to survive Izanami's game. Without a doubt, the previous survivor must have discovered the secret too. While the other kids are engrossed in their game of dodgeball, I run around the schoolyard in silence. It wasn't just at recess either. I ran the same way during lunch as well. I didn't have PE today, but I think I ran even more today than I normally would in gym class. I wonder if this will really work out as expected. Make sure you go straight home once you leave school grounds. Whoever's on duty today, please dismiss the class. Stand! At attention! The final homeroom of the day. I clasped my hands tightly and stood up. Whether or not my theory is correct will be proven now. Please, decrease the time, even if it's just a little. Bye! And with that, just like always, I was in Izanami's after-school world. In an instant, not a soul remained in the classroom. I gulped and looked up at the clock. Izanami slams open the door and bursts into the classroom. Looking up at the clock, he shrugged his shoulders and laughed. Well. Looks like you've gone and figured it out. The time had definitely become shorter. That feeling of vigor ran throughout my whole body. Since I was running laps all day, I should be tired, but I felt all of that exhaustion immediately leave my body. But how long can you keep up that routine, I wonder? After all, you ain't got any patience or willpower. And it's not like I'm just gonna stop increasing the time. In fact, I intend to lengthen it much more. Oh well, it doesn't matter to me. What do you say we start now? Now then, let's start our after-school game. I rushed out into the corridor, and Izanami did the same. I dug my feet firmly into the ground and I started to run. Every day I continued to run. Every break time I ran my heart out, and it seemed that whatever amount of time I ran in advance, that counted for even more time in Izanami's world. Thus, the more I ran in advance, the more of an advantage I had. I was always running. As soon as the bell rang, I would dash out the classroom. The moment I finished eating lunch, I would start running. Now that I mention it, recently I've been finishing my whole lunch. After all, I was running every day, so I've been hungry. I think the same goes for my meals at home, too. And even though I used to toss and turn at night and struggle with insomnia, recently, as soon as I shut off the lights, I would immediately sink into my futon and fall asleep. After all, since I was running with all my might every day, it's obvious that I'd sleep easily from being exhausted. When I run in gym class now, I don't have as much trouble as I did before. Of course, I've been running for hours on end every day. I ran countless laps around the schoolyard every day. Compared to that, running around PE without anyone chasing me was easy. As a test, when I got home in the evening, I would go running as well. I could see results there as well. Of course, Izanami too had no intention of giving up on me. Every day I was challenged to a corresponding amount of time, but as I ran more outside of that game, the time was ever decreasing. Even so, little by little, extra time was tacked on daily. For some time, I was able to reduce the time down to 30 minutes, but recently it's been increasing again, and it returned back to a full hour. However, I fought with all my strength. I found a trick to running easier, at a pace that allowed me to conserve strength. Even if I had to run more than an hour, I had confidence that I could do it. In the meantime, before I knew it, I had already reached 1 month of running away from Izanami. Recently, even if I ran a considerable distance ahead of time, I'd still have more than an hour to go after school. But I wouldn't lose. I was confident that I'd survive for 49 days. I glanced at the clock. 5 more minutes. Izanami's after-school game would soon be over. Well, ain't you doing good? You've been giving it your all lately. Is hell really that scary to you? I guess that ain't surprising. Anyone would want to be spared from that hell. Recently, I've even gathered enough strength and confidence to speak back to Izanami. You know, I've gradually come to like you. Excuse me? Who would want to be liked by a Shinigami? What a joke. Well, that's for sure. Hey, listen to me, Aya-chan. Why do you want to live? I told you, I'm definitely going to be spared a trip to that hell. Well then, what if you could die in the manner that you wished? I'm a Shinigami, you know. I can ferry the souls of the dead to a myriad of different afterlives. What if instead of that brutal hell, I brought you to a world where you could vanish away as if falling asleep, like you wanted? Don't mess with me. I ain't messing around. It's the truth. You said it yourself. My favorite food are the pathetic little shits that no longer have the will to live. You, on the other hand, lately you've been willingly going running every day, giving it all your might. You got willpower and vitality, and I hate souls like that. A gross-tasting soul like yours would just give me indigestion. If that's the case, then hurry up and let me go already. Give me a break. Sorry, can't do that. Once you've ended up in my world, you've got to last the full 49 days. That's my rule. Even if it means I've got to eat a soul that's gotten all nasty tasting. Oh no, that must be so horrible for you. I guess you reap what you sow. You know, I don't have time for this either. Having to chase you around when I'm not even sure whether you'll taste decent. It's a total waste of my time. I would much rather be using that time to scout out other miserable brats. Fine, hurry up and go then. It doesn't matter to me. I just told you. Either go for the full 49 days or get caught by me. Those are the only ways to end our game. That is my rule as the Reaper of the 13th Step, second ranked of the school yokai. So we're both just wasting our afternoons then? That's laughably absurd. Would you listen to me? I'm trying to say I have something to discuss with you. Something to discuss? Without either of us slowing our pace, we continue our conversation. Honestly, I don't care for you, and I'm sure you're getting bored of doing this every day too. So here's the deal. You should let me catch you. Cut that nonsense. Don't be so hasty. Hear me out. I usually take those I catch to that stomach like hell, but I don't have any use for bad-tasting souls like yourself. However, I'm still a Shinigami. Once I catch someone, I have to bring them to an afterlife. And I don't see how that's advantageous to me. I can grant you the death you long for. Huh? Your wish was to die peacefully, like falling asleep or melting away like snow, correct? There is no mistake. That was my wish. I can grant it. That sort of afterlife exists. I'll make an exception and send your soul to that one instead. How does that sound? I don't believe you. I'm a Shinigami. I don't lie about my job. I'm not allowed to. Without thinking, I looked back over my shoulder and looked at Izanami. This Shinigami is always trying to provoke me, but for some reason, at that moment, I didn't feel like those were the eyes of a liar. Since I want to put an end to our after-school game and start hunting a new victim, and you want to be able to rest peacefully, what do you think? It's a win-win situation, right? For the first time since he started chasing me, the Shinigami stood still. Dumbstruck, I stopped as well. Aya Soma, the one who can grant your wish is me, seeing no value in life and wanting to peacefully die because of it. I'm the only one who can grant that. I beg your pardon? The one who decides how I'll die should be me, not you. I don't trust you. Huh. Well, that time may come. Izanami scratched his head and shrugged his shoulders, then let out a laugh. And once again, he began to move his legs. As did I. Izanami didn't say anything more, so I no longer looked at him. I just quietly ran, looking ahead. Izanami is a ruthless Shinigami, but so far, he's never told a lie. He had offered me that death that I had once dreamed of. I wonder why I turned him down. It wasn't because I didn't trust him. Honestly, I'm not sure why. The question that I forgot about once again surfaced in my mind. Why do I want to survive? Do people keep living simply because they don't want to die? I suppose that would be the most obvious reason, but there's more to life than that, isn't there? Wanting to live because you don't want to die, that's meaningless, absurd. But I just can't find it. I can't find a reason to live. I can't find meaning or purpose or a goal. These days that I spend running just because I don't want to die, they're meaningless and worthless. But there's something I don't understand. Compared to the days before this when I lived as if in a trance, I feel like these days that I spend trying so hard every day to survive have slightly more value to me. Obviously, no one wants to die, but that shouldn't be a reason to live in itself. Your reason for living should be something more like a noble goal or calling. But for me, the only reason I'm still living today is because I don't want to die. These should be meaningless, worthless days that I'm living. So I should be able to let myself die. I started to doubt myself. What is right? What is wrong? I'm not sure. Hey! You slowed down! I'm gonna catch you! Ah! I was lost in thought. At some point my pace had slowed, and before I knew it, Izanami had grown close. Izanami banged the handle of his scythe on the ground and yelled at me to speed up. If you're gonna run, empty your head. Don't be thinking about dumb shit. If you got time to think, then start running harder. You were the one who refused my generous offer, so you'll have to stick it through till the end. You've got to run away from me for the full 49 days. Keeping my eyes fixed straight ahead, I nodded vigorously. He was right. I shouldn't be thinking about unnecessary things. What's the meaning of life? That's something that you can only answer for yourself. What is worthless and what is meaningless? If you're going to torment yourself over such meaningless questions, you're much better off just emptying your mind. So, I shall stop thinking and just concentrate on running. When my mind is empty like that, that's when my body and soul feel the lightest. This continued on for many more days. According to my calendar, the 49th day was approaching. Counting how many days remained was very fun. Every day I would empty my head and continue to run. I would come home drenched in sweat and hop in the bath. Then I would eat a full plate of food, collapse into bed, and sleep so soundly that I didn't even dream. And finally, the 49th day arrived. I was so engrossed in my routine that I had completely forgotten about school events and the like. Today was the day of the annual school marathon. A marathon I once loathed. But now, it would be no problem at all. The only difference was that instead of running around the schoolyard alone, I'd be running with others. I'll run my heart out and take on this last challenge. My relationship with Izanami will end today. Good. Today's weather is great for running. Why are you here? Without a doubt, it was Izanami. His unruly appearance didn't seem to be visible to the people around us. This was the first time he had appeared in front of me before the end of school. I figured that since there's a marathon going on, I'd stop by. Besides, today is our final day together, and walking around that building every day just ain't interesting anymore, you know? No way. Don't tell me that you plan on... Correct. I'm getting tired of walking all the time. So, since there's a marathon today, I figured that I could do some running too. I didn't know for certain how fast he was able to run, but given his large build and long legs, he's got to be able to run pretty fast. Furthermore, out of all those days that he'd been chasing me for an hour or more, had never once heard his breathing rate falter. He must have considerable leg strength and stamina. Are you scared? Don't worry. Even if I catch you, I'll still keep my promise to let you die gently. You're kidding. Nope, so you better give it your all. If you can reach the goal before I catch you, you win. But if I get you, I'll let you gently drift to sleep. Izanami continued to laugh malevolently. Closely watching him over my shoulder, I slowly started working my way through the crowd of people to the starting line. I'm gonna count to 20 before I come after you. In the meantime, try to distance yourself as much as possible. Boys crowded in front of the start line. I was the only girl mixed among them. A teacher held up a pistol. It's all right to walk along the way. All that matters is that you finish. Okay? Ready! I worked hard to reach this day. I won't let it all be for nothing. I'm going to survive. Definitely. I stood in utter silence, eyes fixated on the teacher's pistol for a painfully long time. Finally, the silence was broken by the sound of dry gunpowder. At that moment, hundreds of students took off all at once. Get going! Run! Run, Aya Soma! Today is the day that you've been running for. Show me how far you've come. It seems that Izanami's body is intangible to those who can't see him. While he was counting to 20, dozens of students passed right through him. If I was surrounded by the crowds of runners, there's no way that I could keep up my pace. So I had stood with those closest to the starting line and took off with considerable speed. So far, I think my stamina has been fine, but I wasn't so sure about my speed, so I may have forced myself to run a bit too fast on my starting dash. But it's okay. If I can escape from the mass of people at the beginning, then I can run at my own pace from then on. At first, all the boys who wanted to be in first place started off running with all their strength, but one by one they started to run out of stamina and fall behind. But I won't fall behind. My discipline is different than theirs. Finally, the pack thinned and only those who were in sports clubs remained. I dropped my speed and brought myself back to my normal pace. And when I turned my head around to look behind me, I saw him. I saw Izanami chasing after me. But at not too fast a rate. If I can just hold my pace, I should probably be able to keep the lead. Honestly, that's probably not the fastest that he can run. He preferred the chase to the catch. He's most likely going to gradually gain on me until the very last moment. You got quite a bit of strength, don't ya? You see those boys you just passed? They're training all the time in their after-school clubs. You've got even more strength than them. Well, I have you to thank for that. I wanted to snark back at him, but that would affect my breathing rate, so I didn't open my mouth. And somehow, it seems like even without opening my mouth, Izanami can still hear the words in my heart. Are you still thinking? About what? The meaning of life, the value of living. Stupid shit like that. Thanks to you, I don't have time to think about that. Well, isn't that good? That you ain't got time to think. What's good about that? Wasn't thinking about that everyday painful? It was so unbearably painful that you wanted to die, right? So then, it's good. It's good that, because of me, you no longer have time to waste thinking about that stuff. Maybe he's right. There's a saying that goes, it's hard to tell a poor thinker from a sleeping one. No matter how hard you think about it, pointless things will always exist in this world. At first glance, it seems like searching for the meaning or worth in life is a noble cause. But if all you're doing is just thinking about it, then what you're doing is meaningless and worthless in itself. If you have time to think about such trivial things, then studying or exercising, or eating seconds of a delicious meal, or sweating buckets and washing off in the shower, or enjoying the softness of a futon in the evening and falling fast asleep, any of that would be far better. I used to look down on people who didn't care to know the meaning of life. I used to think that they were foolish. I may have been so full of myself I thought that by being philosophical I was somehow nobler than those around me. However, I've realized my mistake. I was being absurd. One's own meaning of life? Or value? If you have time to worry about that, then there's so many other things in the world that you should be doing instead. Like studying, exercising, and laughing with friends at school. What was I doing? All I ever did was daydream. I never studied or exercised or laughed with friends. What I did do was fill my mind with foolish thoughts about the meaning of life and convince myself that I was noble for doing so. I think I finally understand the meaning of life. Living because you don't want to die. That's enough of a meaning. People, just by living, already have wonderful meaning and worth in life. And if you find yourself wanting more meaning to life, you should just try living each moment to its fullest. Learn, play, laugh, be angry, cry. Anything is fine. Just live life with all your might. To be able to put your heart into something and do it until you're literally too exhausted to continue. That is the value of human life. Aya, you're slowing down again. Stop filling your head with useless thoughts. Keep it empty. Don't think, just clear your mind and keep running. Izanami's voice was near. It seems that I had spaced out and started slowing once again. He's right. I don't need this sort of stuff filling up my head. I'll cast it all away. I'll empty my head and my heart so that my body will be lighter. In my mind, there was a feeling of clarity. It felt as if my body was hollow and was as light as a feather. My gaze drifted to a faraway place. My breathing became calm. My legs rapidly became lighter. I can make it. I can make it. I can still make it. I overtake the boys from track and field club as their eyes turn on me with amazement. But none of that matters to me. I am completely empty. I am the wind. Once I turn the corner, the school will once again come into view. The school gate is the finish line. Just a few hundred meters remaining. Aya! This is the last stretch! Show me your fighting spirit one last time! Today, I don't have to worry about the time remaining, Izanami's distance, or climbing up and down staircases. It's all over the moment I reach the finish line. I don't have time. I don't have to hold anything back. I run. I run with every last ounce of strength my body has to offer. I won't think about what comes next. Never again will I fill my mind with trivial introspective questions. Every bit of my mind is empty. I became the wind. For the last 100 meters, my head went completely blank. I don't remember a thing. When I came to, I was sprawled out on the ground of the schoolyard, looking up at the blue sky. My whole body was drenched in sweat. My chest was moving up and down with labored breathing. My lungs burned as if on the verge of explosion. But, like the great blue sky before my eyes, my body, my soul, everything was magnificently and refreshingly empty. That scene was quickly obscured by a large hand reaching down to me. Without thinking, I grab it. It was a large, bulky hand, and then I realized that the hand I'm grabbing belongs to the Shinigami. Izanami pulled and raised my upper body. What do you feel now? I feel empty, like a blue sky. Emptiness is the best, isn't it? You ran and ran and ran, and anyone can become empty if they do that. Yeah, it is the best. It was strange. Even though I was so afraid of the Shinigami, I answered him loudly and clearly, as if replying to a teacher. Right? The reason that people live. You're fine without knowing that, aren't you? Yes. Such things are ridiculous at best. For humans, it's really easy to empty their minds while running. You're going to be living for a long time. So, along the way, if you ever start gathering dumb thoughts in your head again, I think you know what to do. Yeah. I'll run and empty my head of all those things. Exactly. Ain't running great? Yes. By the way, you've got some good legs there. Join the track and field team. I'll be sure to personally oversee your training. I really grew to love running, Sensei. Without my noticing, at some point Izanami's Shinigami cloak had disappeared. Instead of a scythe, he carried a bamboo kendo sword. And in place of his jet black cloak, he was wearing a tracksuit. A group of teachers gathered around Aya, and the other runners that finished behind her were cheering for her. The story of the girl who spent her free time running had already become famous around the school, and because of that, groups of students that participated in sports clubs had lined up around her. Never before had she experienced such praise. Thank you, Sensei. Live, Aya. If you stop, I'll whack your ass with my sword. Yes. A pleasant wind cooled the girl's burning lungs. Feeling as if she were in a dream, she stared up at the blue sky for a long, long time. You're quite the excellent teacher. Oh, it's you, Vice Principal. Ain't you got a sense of privacy? Have you been watching all this time? Don't worry. Watching over the children is my job. She may have gotten away from me, but don't go making Aya your prey. She's no longer a delusional brat that runs away from reality. You're right. If only I had found her first, I could have offered to take her away to the world she desired. Listen up, black tea bastard! I'm the one who's ranked number 2 in this school. I won't allow anyone to get in the way of my hunts. She may not be my prey anymore, but I sure as hell won't let you make her yours. You may be the headmaster's lackey, but listen up, the second ranked in the shadows ain't got nothing on me! Don't worry about me. You see, that ISMO girl you were hunting, she no longer holds any interest to me. I'm going to find a new target, and quickly whisk them away to my dream world so that you can't get them. Screw your dream world. I'll just slap that kid up and bring him back to reality. Vice Principal! The award ceremony is starting! They're calling for you! Well then, I'll be taking my leave. We'll settle this later. Piss off. Go drink your damn tea. Medals were being given to the first 100 kids who had placed in the marathon. They were plastic and cheap plastic at that, but to Aya it was a wonderful symbol of her 49-day survival and rebirth as a person. This was the first time in her life that she had ever received such an award. She held out her hands and accepted the medal from the principal, and a bright smile spread across her face. You know, your soul really did get nasty as hell. Live on, Aya.